2 years, 9 months, and 1 day ago, I sat down and recorded the first episode of a daily podcast. And today, I'm recording episode number 1000. It's been a lot of work, but it's been a great experience. And to date, hundreds of thousands of people from almost every country on Earth have listened to the show. So join me as I celebrate the milestone of episode number 1000 of Everything Everywhere Daily.
Hey kid, how'd you like to listen and play along with a show that can actually make you smarter? That's right, smarter. Have you ever wondered how wolves became dogs?
They said it's gonna be cold outside and I could sit by their fire and warm up.
Who invented skateboards?
Dude, he's calling it the wheel.
How do video games work?
Looks like we have a new champion.
Where does pizza really come from?
The great Rafaela Esposito.
Or why broccoli makes you... Ew, it smells like... If so, you're gonna love Who Smarted, a 12-minute podcast for elementary school kids from the creators of Brain Games and Brainchild. Available every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, wherever you listen to podcasts and at whosmarted.com. And parents, feel free to listen and learn alongside your kids, or take a much-needed time out and leave the smarting to us.
Yeah.
Either way, we're all in for a big whiff of science, history, and fun on Who Smarted.
Hey everyone, I want to tell you about a new nutritional supplement that I've switched to, AG1 by Athletic Greens. I'm always on the lookout to find the best supplements for optimal nutrition, and AG1 actually makes it really simple. I just take 1 scoop of AG1 in a glass of water when I wake up, and I'm good for the whole day. AG1 has 75 high-quality vitamins and minerals and whole food-sourced ingredients. And personally, I find it much easier to scoop a powder into a glass of water and drink it than trying to manage multiple jars of various vitamins, and it's also much easier than swallowing pills. By using AG1, I don't have to worry about if I'm getting enough proper vitamins and minerals because they're all there. If you're looking for a simpler and cost-effective supplement routine, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/everywhere. That's athleticgreens.com/everywhere. Check it out. Before I get into the celebration, I'd like to give a few statistics about podcasts that you might not be aware of. The first is that of all podcasts which have published a single episode onto an RSS feed, 25% have only published a single episode. So if you ever hear about there being millions of podcasts in the world, take this into consideration. 2/3 of all podcasts have 3 or fewer episodes. So I don't want to brag, but there aren't a whole lot of podcasts out there that make it to episode number 1000. To be sure, the reason why most podcasts don't reach episode number 1000 is because they are not daily podcasts. For example, my friend Chris Christensen has been doing his podcast, The Amateur Traveler, since 2005, a full 15 years before I started doing this one. However, because his is a weekly show, he has only recently recorded episode number 847. If this were a weekly show, I would only be around episode number 142 right now. One question which was raised on the Facebook group was if 1000 episodes were 1000 unique episodes. And the answer is no. As of recording this episode, I have done 127 encore episodes, which means that this is the 873rd unique episode that I've recorded. So that means later this year, I'll have yet another milestone to celebrate. Since the show started, there have been approximately 13,100,000 downloads of individual episodes. And that number is approximate because podcast statistics are notoriously subjective. I use several different sources, and they all differ by at least a few percent. Assuming an average of 10 minutes per episode, which is probably conservative, that means that there has been 131 million minutes of Everything Everywhere Daily which have been listened to. That corresponds to approximately 250 years of total listening time. Or to put it in another way, the total listening time is now greater than the age of the United States. So far, the longest episode I've released was the episode on the Sight and Sound Decadal Survey, which was 19 minutes long. The shortest episode clocked in at about 5 minutes, and quite frankly, I forgot which one it was. I don't actually have data to calculate the average time, but I do know the average time has increased since I started by at least a few minutes. Every episode, except for question and answer episodes, is read from a script. The average length of a script is currently about 2,000 words. To compare that to something you might be familiar with, that means almost every day I have to write and research a 2,000-word term paper. If each episode were double-spaced, each paper would be about 10 pages. If there are any students listening to this who complain about having to write term papers, you do not have my sympathy. Of course, I should add that there is a big difference between writing a podcast script and writing a term paper. The biggest is that I don't have footnotes or endnotes because that really doesn't translate to entertaining audio. All of the episodes to this point have been done by myself with no help from anyone. I've had no assistants, writers, or editors. Nothing. The only help I get is from Glassbox Media, who helps me sell advertising and promote the show. That situation will probably change this year, which will be welcome, as it will allow me to improve the quality of the show and launch new projects. With that being said, this week I've asked the audience to share what this podcast means to you, and you delivered. So here are some of the messages that you've left for me.
As the sun rises in the sky, casting its golden light upon the world, J.K. sits down to his breakfast. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee fills the air, mingling with the sweet scent of freshly baked bread. But today, J.K.'s breakfast is not just any ordinary meal. It is the feast for the senses, a celebration of knowledge and wonder. And in the midst of it all, the voice of Gary's Everything Everywhere Daily 1000th podcast rises above the rest, bringing him tales of science, history, and culture. So here's to J.K. and his daily ritual of discovery. May his breakfasts always be filled with the sweetness of knowledge and the richness of wonder. And may we all take a moment each day to indulge in the feast of the mind, to savor the flavors of learning, and to nourish our souls with the joy of discovery. The Dude abides.
Hey, this is Dan in Cleveland. I love the show. I'm looking forward to the next 1000.
Hey Gary, this is Jeroen from the Netherlands. Thank you for helping me impress my colleagues in conversation. Thank you for annoying my tour guides when I'm on the trip because I keep correcting them. But mostly thank you for helping me broaden the minds of my students. I hope to see you when you come to Holland. I have some coffee and stroopwafels ready for you. Keep up the good work and bye-bye.
This is Kevin Holtgren from Trenton, Michigan. I started listening to Everything Everywhere Daily in the summer of 2022 on a recommendation from my brother Stephen. I listened to the first couple episodes and decided I would go all the way back to the start, listen through everything chronologically, and it was nice being able to listen to a couple of episodes a day. It's a bit of a disappointment now because I only get one episode every day, and it would be nice to have more than one. But I do enjoy this, and I have been recommending this podcast to everybody I know. Keep up the good work, Gary.
Hey, Gary, my name's Roman. I just want to say I'm a huge fan of the show. If I ever have kind of an exhausting day at work, it's always great because I can just, listen to an episode, and it always actually seems to, kind of calm me down. Love learning random stuff, and your approach to random information is great. I wanted to say too, I was in Austria not a few months back, and we went to a museum, Maximilian Museum in Innsbruck, his armory, the Armory Museum, which if you haven't seen is awesome. You definitely need to check it out. But it would be really cool if you did an episode on him. I don't know if you already have or not, but if you haven't, you definitely should. Again, thank you. Keep making the show. It's, highlight of my day.
Hey, Gary, this is Blake in Colorado. I found your podcast a few months ago, and I feel like it is the perfect antidote to my continuously curious and wandering mind. It scratches an itch daily. And my fun story is I have been going back through completing all the episodes to go through the Completionist Club. And I came across the James Broccoli episode. And in the last month, I have pointed out to 7 people the producer with the last name Broccoli and its connection to one of their favorite vegetables. Thanks so much for all you do.
Hey, Gary, I absolutely love this show. I recommend it to everybody. I'm a fellow podcaster. I actually had you on my podcast, and I listen every day. It has sent me on so many tangents and rabbit trails of research. And one story I want to share quickly is the Moon Rocks episode. I had just been to the museum by my house, saw a really large moon rock, which was unusual because it's a very small museum. And when I listened to your episode, it got me thinking, wow, we have a really big piece for such a small museum compared to what other museums have. Why is that? And I did some research, found out one of the moonwalkers lived in my area. He had passed away years ago, and his wife donated all his stuff to our museum, including a big chunk of the moon that he has. Well, she's still alive. I looked up her name and her phone number came up. I called her and we had the most amazing hour-long conversation. She invited me over to her house to see all this memorabilia, invited my kids over. It was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had, talking to someone who went through that, was married to someone who walked on the moon and lives right down the road from me, and just a very unassuming home. It was pretty awesome. And that all started because of the podcast. So thanks so much.
Hi, Gary. This is Jerry Gardner, and I want to thank you for everything, everywhere, daily. I listen to it with my dog on our daily morning walk, and not only am I smarter, but my dog is smarter too. So thank you, and keep up the good work.
Hey there, my name is Liz, and I run a photo studio in Chicago. And I have a ritual now that I listen to Everything Everywhere daily when I am cleaning up my studio. So after I do a photo shoot, I have to reset things. I have to put the lights back, the props back. And what I love to do is put on this podcast and try to race myself and get the studio cleaned up and ready to go before the episode ends. I love the topics on this show. I love that there are things that are talked about that I would never have run across before. For example, I loved hearing about how astronauts celebrate Ramadan in space. That was so fun and so fascinating. Thank you so much for a fabulous podcast, Gary. Keep up the good work.
Hi, this is Glenn Follow from Auckland, New Zealand. Just wanting to congratulate Gary on his 1000th episode. Now, I'm not too sure what algorithm it was which paired with my Spotify feed, but somehow it did, and I'm glad. I started listening during our first COVID lockdown back in 2020 and have been a regular ever since. So once again, wanting to congratulate Gary on his 1000th episode, and maybe if you ever make it back to these shores, which I'm sure you will, it'll be worth catching up. I only live just down the road from Eden Park, by the way. Cheers.
Hi, I'm Logan, and you taught me to be a better podcaster. I learned to say less and speak more clearly. Thanks, Gary. I love Everything Everywhere daily.
Hi. Well, Gary, I wanted to just say congratulations on getting 1,000 episodes. I know you said that maybe you should do a special one, but I can't remember how. Almost all of them stand out, except, I got this calculus, so I'm not really keen on any of the two technical science one, but I do love the fact that it's always something interesting. And I would probably say, even when I get the ones that are kind of like numbers, I still really love it. So when you have 1,000, 100,000 more, I think we're going to get immortality soon. All right, bye.
Hey, Gary, Cameron here. My daughter and I, Sophia, love listening to your podcast. I like to make the joke with her that between you and I, we know everything. So one of her recent questions was, who invented the shoehorn? Do you want to take a crack at this one, or should I? Again, thanks for the podcast.
When I first found the podcast, I'd enjoy combing through and finding all the topics that interested me. But now my favorite part is finding the ones that I don't think interest me, because without fail, I'm pretty much always wrong. They're really interesting. Thanks.
I want to thank all of you who left messages. Your feedback here and on the Facebook group, the Discord server, Twitter, and even email is always appreciated. And I want to give special thanks to everyone who supports the show over on Patreon. Executive producer Charles Daniel, associate producers Thor, Thomsen, and Peter Bennett, as well as the past producers of the show, which you might occasionally hear in encore episodes. The support of patrons makes it possible for me to continue to do the podcast every day. So with that, the celebration is now over, and it's time to start work on episode 1001.